everybody, Big Mess Tuckasegee Fly Shop here at the tying bench at one of our shops, and I'm going to be doing a stimulator fly pattern for you today. This is a request from one of our viewers, which if there's something you want us to tie, be sure to leave it in the comments section down below. And with that being said, make sure you hit that notification bell so one of these new videos goes up, you'll be the first to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a stimulator for you folks, and I'm going to tie it the way that I tie it. I do a couple of things a little differently. The biggest thing is, instead of using two different color feathers, I usually stick to one, whether it's a grizzly or a dark brown. Typically, it's more of a dark brown. I feel like it's more natural. And the reason why I use one color is it's just more convenient, honestly, there. But the original had two. You had a brown and a grizzly, both. I will tie it with deer hair. It's a stimulator deer hair as well, so it's a little finer. It's a Nature Spirit deer hair. We're going to be using some Semperfli K-Pot dubbing on this as well, yellow and the orange. I will tell you that if you vary your colors and you go with, a full orange one or a full yellow, even change your thorax to red, do some olives and things like that, you can vary to match the bugs or maybe stoneflies that you particularly have in your area. This pattern fishes well solo. It's a great two-fly pattern, whether you're going to fish it with another dry fly or float a nymph underneath it. You certainly can change the size of this. I typically fish these things from 10s down to 14, sometimes 16s. If it's 16, it's a little bit more of a solo pattern, and that is more summertime uses. So let's get started and jump into the tying video and see if I can pull this off. So I'm going to be using a Daiichi 1730. This is actually a nymph hook, and on this particular pattern, you do need a little bit heavier hook. The reason why I like this particular hook is because of the angle. Before, we would take a regular straight hook and we would actually put a little bend. You could take a pair of pliers or something. You could put that little bend. I don't want to mess with the integrity of the hook or even put a little bit of burr on there that potentially could cut the thread and materials, and it would not potentially last as long. So I like this style of hook, but certainly you can tie it on a straight hook. Whatever works best for you. You do what you need to do, and I'm sure the police will not come and give you a ticket for tying it up the way that works for you. So I'm going to start my Semperfli. I'm going to be using some Nano Silk and yellow today here, and I'm going to start my thread base back to the back, and I'm going to come forward. I am using a Norvise fly tying system, and I really like this auto bobbin, as you can tell, the way that I'm able to retract and bring my thread and all those things back up. So the first material we're going to tie in, since we've got our thread base down, is going to be our tail. And for the tail, we will be using some stacked deer hair. I've taken the liberty of already stacking that in the hair stacker, so would not be quite the disturbance and maybe shake the camera, or you have to deal with that pounding there. But I like to kind of lay it up here at the hook and kind of measure that tail. The tail length really, it depends on you. I've seen sometimes I tie them longer, sometimes I tie them shorter. But, just find your magic spot. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to transfer this measurement to my left hand. And then I want to cut to where these tips are going to lie right here. And I want to start tying that in. I want to get a really nice counterclockwise twist, get my thread to jump backwards. I want to really torque down on that. I want to close off those hollow tips. And as I go back, I'm making loose wraps. And I'm trying to be careful to make sure that we keep this deer hair on top of the hook shank, which in some cases is difficult to do. I understand that, trust me. Now that I've got that secured, I got a little too tight on it. It's going to flare, but I'll bring that back in here in just a moment. That hair is going to go nowhere. I'm letting my thread lie flat, and I want to make a loose wrap right there and just kind of bring that back in so it's not flaring out so much. And that looks pretty good. With the rotary vise, you can see I can rotate this here and look at what work I've done, which is really important. The next material we want to do is we're going to use some wire. This here is just a copper wire. I have to be honest with you here. I got a confession. I don't do this step on the ones that I do for myself. However, the original pattern, this is how it was tied. So I'm going to try to keep traditional to that and honor that original pattern, to be honest with you there. So we're going to get this started here I'm going to start it with on my side. I want to do that. I want to reach in here and kind of bend this back over so I can wrap over top of it and lock it in. So basically what I did is I kind of I started it and then I bent the slack back over and then tied over top so it can't pull out is what I did there. Just a good little locking technique. And now I'm just going to bring that up to the front. I want to take a hair clip. Just a little pro tip there for you. I like to include these every once in a while. But a little hair clip about this size is great that you can secure materials to your vise regardless of what vise. So if I wanted to do the rotating feature just like so, bring that up front. At this point, I'm going to put in a half hitch and I'm going to get some yellow dubbing and we're going to dub this body. Now, with that being said, you can use dubbing, you can do a thread body, you can do floss, just whatever you want to do. The point is, I want you to take away kind of the techniques in the steps of tying this fly. You do what works best for you. So I want to grab some K-pot dubbing, and this is stuff that we have here at the shop in different packs and things like that. This is a K-pot. It's a fluoro and natural selection. The thing about K-pot dubbing is it supports 30 times its weight. It's finer than superfine dubbing. It's about a 30 to 36 micron and a 1.8 centimeter fiber length. So it's very, very fine. You can get a super fine body on a fly. So if you're looking for a really neat dry fly dubbing or something for some real thin bodies and you need some dubbing, certainly consider the K-pot. And we have an excellent selection of that here at all of our shops and probably flyshopusa.com. So I'm just going to take a little bit, and it doesn't take a lot. And we're just going to start that on there. Now, remember, it's easier to add dubbing than it is to take dubbing off. So just almost go get what you think you need, and then get a little bit less than that. Okay? Like I said, you can always add it. As you can see here, I'm making a real nice thin noodle, and I'm just going to start wrapping back. And the reason why I do this, it really helps with the body taper. Okay, I could have started back here in the back, but I like to do it this way. So I'm just pulling this little dubbing here, and this, when you do a lot of these, you can get really quick at it, and I'm taking my time for the benefit of you folks out there, to kind of as that educational purpose there. I'm just going to start getting this laid down, and then we're just going to wrap back over top, down and back. Then we're going to tie in our feather, and we'll get this bad boy all tied up there, folks. Definitely experiment with different colors. That's key for sure. I like an olive one, and I go with a very natural color hair for the wing, because I think it does a great job of imitating some of the natural stone flies that we have here in our area. When I get back to the tail, I do a loose wrap. I don't want to torque down on that because I don't want these fibers to flare on me back here. That's key too. Now, if you want a tail that's flared out, certainly do that. Just by putting more torque on it, it's going to cause those tail fibers to flare. But we've started tying this in up here at the front, and this is not going to go nowhere. As you can see, I'm kind of building that taper for me up through there. It's going to be a very durable fly, something that's going to last. So when you're tying flies, you don't want flies that fall apart. And even when you certainly buy a fly, you don't want a fly that's going to go apart on you either. Think about if you might hit a tree or something. You want it to be able to last. The teeth of the fish, it's using your forceps maybe to get the hook out of his mouth. You want it to last, of course, but taking the time and having a good tied fly, it's durable. You're controlling the quality of that particular fly. Just take your time. It's not a race. So a little bit thicker right there, and we'll almost be at our finish point here. And you see I'm stopping that about right there where that bend is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set this dubbing. It's super fine. And that's where, like if you have a dubbing that's not quite as fine, you could certainly dub that body quicker. You can use a yarn type material as well. You could use polypropylene yarn if you wanted to. That's certainly doable, and that's the benefit of doing it yourself. So you can see I got a real nice body on there, pretty even. I'm just going to take my feather that I dropped. I want to capture it again. I want to strip off the bottom barbules like so. Give me a tie-in point here. You can see that. I'm going to lay that up here on the side of my hook. I do a counterclockwise twist, cause my thread to jump backwards. I'm going to secure this stem in here really good. I want to put a half hitch with my fingers. 1, 2, like so. Now I'm going to put that over here in my post. I'm going to use the rotating feature on my vise here, and I'm just going to start making open spiral wraps going to the back, folks. As you can see, the contrast between the brown and the yellow, I think, look really well. And in the summertime, if you think about your bees and stuff that are flying around out there, these colors, they look a lot, I want to say terrestrially look. So I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to start making open spiral wraps through those feathers. And you will trap some fibers, but it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. Song lyrics, comment down below what song that's from. We'll see who is from what generation. Capture that there. I want to take and helicopter this off. Not a very good helicopter sound today. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. All right, better. Half hitch, half hitch. Okay. I'm going to come in here. I want to rotate, come in here. I want to snip off that stem and whammo. So there we go. We got the back section of the fly tied. Very simple. Very, very simple. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie in our wing. Here at this wing, you have the option to put an underwing of Crystal Flash if you would like. In this case, I'm not going to do that, but some people do. I've already stacked our hair. Once again, I said the Stimulator deer hair. There, it's a Nature Spirit. I like it. It's a very fine hair. You don't have to use it just on a Stimulator fly. It's great on caddis and things as well. I just like it. It's a lot finer. As you can see, it's a really, really nice patch of hair. Easy to work with. So I've got my hair stacked in my stacker. I want to grab it by the tips, the fine points. I'm going to lay it up here. And then what I like to do is I want my wing to basically line it with my tail, but when I tie it in, it's going to come up like this, okay? So I'm going to get that measurement here, transfer it to my left hand. I'm going to kind of snip some of these butt sections off so it's not as bulky. As you can see, just like so. I'm going to spin my thread counterclockwise. I want to come in, I want to capture those. I just want to go loose, loose, and I want to pull straight up. And now I can start biting through those butt sections and really start to tie that down. As you can see, I've not let loose of this. Then what's going to happen here, this is going to flare. But as I start to tie back to this, it's really going to draw this in. Now, I do see stimulators that are tied commercially that have a lot of flare to them. You'll see them out of deer hair and elk hair both in the shop bins, depending on where you go and what company tied those flies. They will all work. I just like the deer because it's finer and it doesn't bulk up as much. And actually, you can use a little bit more hair on it, to be honest with you. So what we're doing here with this curved hook, if you notice, we're starting to create that shape of that particular pattern. And everything's got a purpose. So I'm going to tie this in here in just a moment, and then I'm actually going to change thread, and we're going to go to orange. So I want to secure this in here, and you see I've got this nice ramp. And here in a minute, we're going to actually tie back to here. But let me go ahead and put in a whip finish or two, and we're going to change over to orange. The reason why I'm going to do the change is that if I were to use an orange thread underneath the yellow dubbing, once this gets wet, the orange thread would show through that yellow dubbing and it would not look right at all. It would really change the effectiveness of this particular fly. and that dubbing, all that dubbing work you did would basically be null and void. So you can see here, this is a nice kind of a fluorescent, it's actually called a fluorescent red from Simplify, but it's really an orange. It's a great color, one of my favorites to do. It's great on girdle bug, hot spots, things like that on some of your nymphs. But if you notice there, I kind of tied in loosely back here, and I brought those fibers in. So keep that in mind. Even if you're doing a caddis or other flies with this style of wing, you have the ability to do that, and that's that thread manipulation. So I'm going to take remaining part of my feather, and I'm going to strip off those barbules on the bottom, counterclockwise twist. I'm going to tie that in like so. Now I want to make sure I got a pretty even area here. Let me go ahead and put a half hitch. We will always want to save our work. And really the last thing we got to do here now as far as material is some orange dubbing. I do see these in red. Red actually works well, but orange is was the traditional color, the original color. So sticking true to the originality of the fly pattern, that's what we're going to do today. Maybe just a smidge more dubbing, kind of spread that out on the loop. On the Norvise, I literally could spin this vise and attach this dubbing to the thread, but to keep it to where, like if you're at home tying this pattern and you don't have that ability, I'm just going to do it the traditional way there. Just a little bit more dubbing. I want to leave a little bit of space up close to the eye. So we are going to be able to tie this off effectively. So right there, beautifully. I'm going to do a finger half hitch, folks. I'm going to get this out of my way. Love auto bobbins. I'm going to take my feather. So if you're at home and you don't have a rotating vise, you would wrap it like this. You can make close wraps if you want to. I see people do close wraps. I see people make open wraps. That's entirely up to you. But to show you how you would do it at home, if you don't have a rotating vise, that's all you do. I'm going to come in here. I want to capture this feather a couple of times in the back, come in the front, go behind again, come in the front. And I'm going to take my old half hitch tool, which is older than maybe some of you folks watching. I'm going to slide that off there. I'm going to take my scissors. These are Dr. Slick scissors, by the way. Good pair of scissors goes a long way, folks. We think about other tools. Invest, spend some money on scissors, and then take care of them, and they will take care of you. I'm going to use this stabilize, discard that. That looks got one errant little fiber there. Now, what we got to do to finish this is I'm going to do a traditional whip finish with the whip finish tool. I'm going to do 2 of those. Okay. If you can do this by hand, certainly do so. I can do it by hand as well, but more often than not, I do this here. All right, I've got 2 whip finishes on there. Secure that, get that off. Now, if you look, we have got a beautifully tied, I say beautifully, but a really nice tied traditional stimulator, yellow with the orange. This is a great fly that a lot of you folks will fish. I encourage you to experiment with your colors. Natural colors work exceptionally well in this particular pattern. You can even change the color of your hair if you like. Go with olives. In the fall, go with kind of an orange type color to represent an October caddis if you would like. Black also works well too. If you have any questions, you can reach us at info@tuckflyshop.com. Give us a call, 828-488-3333. As I mentioned before, be sure to subscribe, share the video, and hit that notification bell so you will be the first to know when these new videos come out. Folks, we appreciate you watching. Y'all take care.